Sparks that I don't remember. Hold and let it shine. Fix and start to fade away. Fix and start to fade away. Fix and start to fade away.
Hello, dear friends of Kabbalah International. We are once again with MarioSaban.
How are you, Nacho? How is everything?
Very well, Mario. Shalom. Very happy to be here. Today we are going to deal with the theme of the Tetragram, Yud Hey Vav Hey. And we are going to go deeper into the name of God and what are its internal connotations within the perspective of the Kabbalah. It's a profound topic that I'm sure can interest many people.
Very well, Nacho. I find it very accurate. Up until now, we've been having various interviews and dialogues in this channel about important Kabbalah topics, but we haven't yet started delving deeper. Today, thank God who gives us life, we are finally diving into the topics directly related to Kabbalah, the profound subjects. Of course, it couldn't be any other way. We chose to begin with the name of God. One of the names of God, the most important according to Kabbalistic tradition, as Joseph de Gicatilia states in his work, The Gates of Light, the Sharei Yorah, where he clearly says, Yud Hey Vav Hey is the stem of all the names of God, and the Yud Hey Vav Hey represents the overall map of how divinity was revealed in this reality. In this reality, there are 5 universes. When we talk about universes in Hebrew, we talk about Olamot, that's the name in Hebrew, and Olam comes from Nilam, which means the concealment. Each universe hides the other. But above all, what marks the Tetragram, the 4-letter name of God, is the process of revelation, of divine expansion and contraction for the construction of this universe. That is, the Yud, the first letter of the Tetragram, represents the universe of Atziluth, the universe of emanation which is expansive. The second letter of the Tetragram, Hey, is the universe of Beriah, the universe of creation, which is of contraction. Then we move on to the universe Vav, the universe of Yetzirah, which is called the formation, which is basically those 6 days, quote-unquote, 6 major stages in the formation of the created universe. That is the Vav, which is expansive, and finally the last Hey of the Tetragram, which is the universe of Asaya, the universe of action, which is also of contraction. Therefore, we would have in the 4 letters of the Tetragrammaton 2 letters that are expansive, the Yod and the Vav, and 2 letters that are restrictive, the 2 Hey. Yud and Vav are masculine, and the 2 Hey are feminine. And as you can see, within the Tetragram, there is a masculine-feminine balance in each of these stages. Each one comes to compensate the previous one. In the framework of the cosmogonic tree, if we look at it within the tree of life, how are the letters of the Tetragram situated? We say Chokmah, wisdom, is of the Yud, which is expansive, it's masculine. Then we have Binah, which is the first Hey, which is restrictive, which belongs to the universe of Bera. Then we have Tifereh, representing Yetzirah, that Tifereh is the Vav, that the letter Vav is in the middle of the Tetragram. And finally the Hey, the ultimate Hey, which is Malkuth. It means that if we see the map of the Tetragram in the tree of life, it's Chochmah Bina Tiferet in representation of the Heis and Malkuth. There is a hidden universe behind the universe of emanation, which we call Adam Kadmon, the primordial man, and that hidden universe belongs to the point from which the letter Yud will emerge. That is to say, the point that we could call the point of hidden information within the infinite. That would be the representation. But the most important thing for those listening is to understand that the name of God is cosmogonic. What does that mean? It shows energy, how it was operative within the universe.
It shows how the energy is shown to be operative. It shows not only the process but also the result. Both at the same time, process and result. In this unity, as you mentioned before, of the masculine and the feminine, the expansive and the restrictive, and in a previous conversation you mentioned that the name could also be divided into two parts, Yud and Hey, and Vav and Hey. You explained something about this. Can you repeat it, please?
Yes, the tetragram can be divided in that way as well as both in that way as the first two letters with the last two letters. The first two letters where the Yud Hey would be the representation of the masculine, and as every masculine has within it a Hey which is feminine, and then the representation of the feminine which is Vav Hey, whereas all feminine has also the Vav which is masculine. It's what is called the inter-inclusion, with which the tetragram can be divided in two. On the one hand, Yah, from which comes Hallelujah. Yah, that would be the root of the whole tetragram, which is masculine, and the Vav Hey. What does this mean? That what we see on the surface of the matter is the most feminine because it is the most receptive, and what we do not see, the most invisible in the field of energy, is the most masculine because it is the most subtle and the most expansive. Therefore, what is restricted is when there is more vessel, and what is less restricted, what is very expansive, is when there is not so much vessel, but there is too much energy, very subtle, very expansive, which needs, of course, the vessel to reveal itself. In other terms as well, and moving away from this mode of analysis, we could say that the four letters of the name of God themselves are receptive vessels, because they are vessels of reception of information with which we ascribe to each one of them. We place it with a type of information. It means that each word, and the word of the name of God much more, is like a matrix code, let's say, of the position of the energies, or of the revelation of the energies from the subtlest to the densest within the universe.
Is there anything you want to mention about, for example, the numerical value of the letter Yud?
Of course there is. The numerical value of the letter Yud is 10, and why is it 10? For the Kabbalists, the first 10 sephirtos, the first 10 dimensions, are manifested there. It means that it is extremely important. There is a triangle, which is called the triangle of the tetragrammaton, where Yud, which is 10, appears at the apex. Then it manifests in Yud Hey, which is 15. Yud 10 plus Hey 5. Then it manifests in 21. Yud Hey Vav. Vav is 6. And then it manifests in Yud Hey Vav Hey, which is 26, which is the final God name of the whole tetragram. But the base of the tetragram is the Yud. The base is 10. It means that 10 of the 10 dimensions of the universe of Hatziluth.
Did you see how we came back?
How, sorry?
How we come back to Atzilut's universe.
Of course. We come back to the universe of Hatziluth because the Yud is the universe of Hatziluth. And those 10 descend into Bariah, descend into Yetzirah, and descend fractally, correct? Meaning they manifest those 10. In fact, the problem of those 10, and I don't want to go into that because this is not the time for dialogue.
Yes, I know.
What interconnection they are going to have, because these 10 in their origin manifest themselves directly in Bariah's universe and have no energy compensation system.
Yes.
For such an energy compensation system to exist, there has to be an element that somehow interconnects the 10, which are the 22 Hebrew letters. This would be another subject. The subject that I would like to make clear in this intervention is that there are 10 dimensions, which would be the base. But be careful, the 10 dimensions alone are a problem. There has to be interconnection between them. If there is no interconnection, then the system can fail. In fact, it did fail. What happens is that somebody can say, if the system failed, God failed to create the system. Well, here comes a secret. The system is failed. So that we have a purpose in this existence. Of course. In other words, without it, our purpose does not exist. Our purpose is to repair this system. Certainly many people will ask, why do I come to a place where I have to repair if I am not guilty of any problem? Why do I have to come to repair? The point is, you don't come to repair something that doesn't work before you were born. One comes to an imperfect world in order to perfect it. In order for us to have a sense here, that is to say, here the problem would be, it would be that if a perfect world would exist here, and we were born and developed in a perfect world, we would have nothing to do. That is to say, our existence makes sense, because the universe is imperfect. Thanks to the imperfect universe, our existence makes sense. Therefore, beware, we are getting to a fundamental point. The meaning of our existence is given by the structure of the universe. The meaning of our existence has to do with the physics of the universe. Because the universe is imperfect, we have something to do here. We have a function. If the universe were perfect, we would have nothing to do.
What a gift of imperfection and error.
It's the most beautiful thing there is. Except for you, who are a perfectionist, for the rest of us imperfect mortals, it's the best.
You had to prick.
I often say that the imperfect ones, that we are the Benonims, we are those who are happy in imperfection. It means that when a problem appears, thank God for bringing me a problem, because in fact you are giving me a job. Because if there were no problem, I would be bored.
Yes, Beinonim, but with a tendency to Sadik.
Sure, always. The Sadik is our kete, it's our model, where we always go. But we must have compassion on the Beinonim, because we are all Beinonim. He is laughing so much, I
It's
try
all
not
right,
to
it's
laugh.
okay. It's fine, it's perfect. Well, Mario, thank you very much.
My pleasure, thank you.